So here I am, and I've got a little bit of a discussion about improvised lockpicks that I've been wanting to try to get out for a little while, but I've been having a little bit of difficulty with video making. Either way, in a lot of videos and instructions that I see online, and even myself for 90% of the time that I've done improv picking, you see a very particular shape reoccur and reoccur and reoccur, and it's going to be this guy right here. Um, Basically, an imitation standard hook. It looks just like the real thing, somewhat. You've got, a slight little bend at the front. You've got a round handly bit. You've got a straight shaft on both of them. And, it's imitation at its finest. I think I've put a little deeper of a bend on my hook than with a real hook. Yeah, it's slightly deeper than the real deal. But all in all, it's an imitation of the real thing. But a problem arises when we try to pick with this, and I'll try to demonstrate that. And I'm exaggerating a little bit here to show I'm using the same force that I would use with a... Oh, and there we go. I flew out using the same force that I use with a ready-made standard hook, and now we can see this is well, it's a non-standard hook now. It totally does not match the standards anymore. And the reason you see this with these is this Southern standard hook. This is spring steel. This Peterson Bogota, that's spring steel. This Chinese no-name standard hook, it's spring steel. This shape, the thin shaft and bendy tip number here for manipulating pins, is designed to be used in spring steel that does this when deflected. It springs back to true. Southern springs back to true. Peterson springs back to true. Uh, Paperclip takes a set and stays bent. So we have to develop a shape that works in paperclip steel. Paperclip steel is untempered, it's soft, it's thin, it's thinner. Vertically, you have more material here than you have per wire. So what I do to do this, I've discovered this just over time picking with paper clips, is that I bend it over my finger so that I get this downward thing, so that it kind of just does that. This little ridge here is significant. It has to exist. Otherwise the design fails. And then I just take it and I round this up until I get kind of a fishhook shape. And what this does, it's like a Roman arch. When you brace the pick on that little lip that I made, and you apply you apply upward force with the needle point as if you were lifting a pen, the force transfers along the curve and drives straight into your thumb, more so than into the shaft of the pick itself. And it distributes the force, so there's less counterbend. You still do counterbend as you're picking, but it's far easier just to reset the curve a little bit to recurve out that curve than it is to have this number going on. So it still has problems though. This is still a very soft material, so it doesn't transfer vibration that well. Because of that, you get less feedback. If you look at the dimensions of these tips next to each other, standard hook, I have a flat tip that engages the pins with quite a bit of surface area. On the paperclip fish hook, I've got basically, well, a needle. Picking a lock, because I still am working in a soft material, although this shape prevents it from bending as easily, it still does bend, and because I can't transfer too much force through this tiny little needle head for lifting, I do have to be somewhat delicate, so I have to use light tension when I'm picking with it. And I have to go slowly to be able to feel what I'm doing. But I can still get an open with it. Now then, that's kind of cheating. I've done this video 3 times now, and this is a lock I'm very familiar with. It's one of my earliest practice locks. So let's move on to something a little more unfamiliar so that I can demonstrate the time differential between this and a standard tool. So I'm going. I can feel my pins, but not as well as with a standard tool. Again, because softer material and a needle tip. And now we're seeing the time differential. And we have an open, and I better be careful because this has an open bottom and I don't want to lose my pens. So we have an open, and compare that to a standard tool. We use my Southern standard hook rather. And I have a very unambiguous feedback with this. I can't really convey that over video. But with the other tool, I'm almost brute forcing or bitch picking or whatever it's called nowadays. I'm basically rocking it open slowly with the other tool compared to the very unambiguous SPPing that I'm doing here. And there we go, I have an open. Much faster, and the biggest thing is I have much less ambiguous feedback. So really, that's basically what I came to demonstrate is this shape. Although it's still slow and not necessarily suitable for James Bond types or urbexers or criminals or anything like that. It's still very capable of, well, anything's very capable of getting a Master 3 open. It's still very capable of being useful for lockout technician type scenarios. For example, I've opened my front door with a tool like this and improvised tension tools, which are a little beyond the scope of what I'm trying to get out today. But anyway, braced fishhook design. Try it out in paperclips next time you do some improv picking. All right, and I guess that's all I have today. Thanks.